Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Harish, and I'm the son of the author of the book Raising Stars.
And I'm Nandini, the niece of the author of the book Raising Stars.
We have gathered here today to celebrate the book Raising Stars. Raising Stars is a parenting book with a difference. It not only throws light on the challenges new age parents grapple with, like helicoptering, polarized parenting, inculcating in children value for money, etc., but also gives us a glimpse of how Bollywood stars strive to give their children a normal, wholesome childhood in spite of the constant media glare and public scrutiny.
This book has been in the making for 8 years. Having witnessed all that went into the making of this book, the countless phone calls to stars and their managers, the compilation of interviews, the hours of study and research on all topics pertaining to parenting, the rewriting, editing of the first manuscript, the second manuscript, and finally the third manuscript, one thing is for sure. Raising Stars is a labor of love. We are super excited to call on stage the author of Raising Stars.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for my mother, Rashmi. Dr. Havavi Bhagavatar has been part of this book since inception. Her inputs, backed by scientific research and professional experience, added depth and value to the book. Dr. Havavi Bhagavatar is the founder of Manasham, a private practice dedicated to helping individuals with complex trauma, personality disorders, and mood disorders. She is founding board member with Mental Health Support Foundation and visiting faculty at TISS, Xavier's College, and Sophia College. She has presented at national and international conferences and created public awareness on mental health through newspapers, radio podcasts, and TV appearances. She is the recipient of humanitarian awards from the Young Environmentalist Foundation and Times of India. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Havavi Bhagavatar on stage.
Our third panelist had the honor of bringing glory to the country by winning the Miss World crown in 1999. Yes, we are talking about none other than Yukta Mukhi. Very few know about his spiritual journey and of her being a student of Siddha Yoga Sadhana. Yukta is a trained ward of educationist and specialized in early childhood and remedial education for children with learning difficulties and food allergies. A Reiki master trained in giving womb lessons and healing, she mentors women through Bach flower and sound healing therapy. A certified professional prenatal and perinatal birth psychologist, Yukta is deeply committed to prepare parents for understanding the prenatal journey of a family. An Ayurveda diploma holder, Yukta has also studied Ayurveda for women and children health. She has completed training for specializing in Garbha Vidya and Sanskar, a champion of the Vedic Gurukulam methods for imparting knowledge of sacred scriptures. Yukta is a single mother who is raising her son to be empowered by all levels of Indian knowledge systems. A true beauty with brains. I'm delighted to welcome Yukta Mukhi on stage.
Our next panelist is a rock star, best remembered for his stellar performance in Mani Ratnam's romantic thriller Roja. Madhu Shah has left the audience spellbound with her effortless charm and acting chops. Madhu has left her mark with unforgettable performances in movies like Diljale, Fool or Kante, and Gentleman. She has acted in Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and Malayalam movies down south. With a huge following on Insta, Madhu is a star for all reasons and the right reasons. Mother to two beautiful daughters, Ameya and Kea, Madhu fulfills all her personal, professional, and social commitments with a smile on her face and spring in her step. Please welcome Madhu Shah on stage, ladies and gentlemen.
Last but definitely not the least, let's get to know the moderator of the panel discussion, Shalini Vikrant. Shalini Vikrant is a happiness life coach and a motivational speaker. She envisions a world where everyone can transform their lives by accessing their inner positive being. She is the founder of the firm Inner Happiness Index that conducts guided meditation sessions and workshops on happiness, mindset, personal growth, and communication. Her clients include medical professionals, the Indian Army, income tax officials, and universities. She also designs and conducts credit courses on personal effectiveness, communication, mindset, and positive self-image for graduate, postgraduate, and executive MBA programs at Mumbai University and Delhi University. She is a member of Board of Studies at an eminent management college in Mumbai.
Without much ado, let's welcome Shalini Vikrant on stage and get the much awaited panel discussion on parenting started.
So welcome, thank you for coming. I'm so looking forward to this conversation which we're going to have on parenting. So just a quick one before we start. We all are parents, we all are mothers here sitting on the stage, I'm sure. So when you were young, okay, before you got married, or probably before you became a mother. So usually, when we are young, we don't want to, sometimes it happens, I don't want to become a mother. So much of responsibility, I'll get tied down and various things. So did you feel that, experience that? Or were you absolutely ready? No, I want to get into it.
Okay, now good evening everyone. I'm going to start this with a disclaimer because I kind of feel a little not belonged here. One is an author, so it's a lot of research. One is a doctor. One is Ayurvedic expert, one is a life coach. I'm just a mother.
I would like to interrupt. Mothers are the best life coaches, isn't it? And they are the authors of the children's lives. Yes.
Yeah, just a mother.
Absolutely.
So, whether I wanted to be a mother, I would say that I was not ready to get married. I got married so I could be a mother. So my journey started like this, where I fell in love and I got married, and we never had that conversation, my husband and I, whether we're going to have children. For me, I think that's a normal way. You get married and then you have children. I got married and my husband said that he didn't want to have children.
So were you surprised? Shocked?
I was shocked and I was like, then why the heck did I get married? Why am I married to you? Because we never had that conversation. And then the battle to become a mother was a huge one. So for me, my fight with my friend here who's here, who lives in Australia. So she's here today, and she's the only reason, Dr. Hawovi, that I don't have a counselor. And I don't waste. When you have a best friend, you don't need a counselor, and she's that for me. So yes, my journey to be a mother is the reason I gave up my work happily. And I don't like to use the word sacrifice, because sacrifice means that you are giving a very important part of yourself. But when I wanted to be a mother and have children, it was not something that I subtracted from me, it was what I added to my life. So I gave up my work to add more life to my life. I wanted to be a mother, so yes, that's how my journey started.
Beautifully said. Yeah, so I think we should give her a round of applause for this development. And you've covered that too.
I was always the cousin sister in the family who was given the babies and the young toddlers, and you babysit and you handle. So I was always the one who's happy to volunteer and happy to be there. And I think even as a young girl, I remember sitting up sometimes late night, mothering my parents also. मतलब उनको कुछ चाहिए तो मैं उठ जाती हूँ हाँ so for me mothering was something that I love children I still love children, and it wasn't something that I was prepared for. When I got married, it was something that happened, and then they say that child always chooses the mother and the father and the generations in the family. So when I look back, I say he's chosen me to come from. And truly, it's been a very blessed journey with its challenges. As Madhuji said, that it's not a sacrifice but a very conscious decision we make, especially when we've been in the public limelight, to then say, okay, now this is kind of on the back burner here, I need to be fully present and emotionally available for a baby. And I also saw my mother never having maids around us, so for me it was very important that I do everything. Help चाहिए है, but मेरे बेबी का मैं ही कर रही हूँ. So रात को उठना है, nappies है, everything है. So I was too happy to do it. It's exhausting and overwhelming beyond a point, but the joy of motherhood, which sort of, I feel it's a spiritual initiation. You go through a whole process which transforms you. It just, your filters and your perception towards how you see the world and how you interact and how you start thinking about yourself also changes.
True.
So yeah, still growing. She's ahead of me. I think a lot of you are ahead of me. Like I'm still at 14 and a half, 15 years in my journey. But yours are adults now, young adults, and girls too.
That's beautiful. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. And Havavi, would you like to add? I think being a psychologist and then being a parent are two totally different things. Because the kind of things I would teach or talk about in the clinic and the kind of questions I would answer in parenting columns, all of that turned 180 degrees once I had my child. I said, what was I talking so far? It was all rubbish. Because when you have your own kid, you learn on the job. And all those, the gyan that I used to bargo, I think I came back to me many-fold. So I wasn't, to answer your question, being prepared to be a mother, yes, I always wanted to be a mother. Always. I think since I was I had nieces and nephews, and like Yukta, I had some experience with parenting. But my son Mahir came very, very suddenly, just a year after marriage. So it was that way I wasn't prepared. But my husband's here, Behram, and we are Parsi, so the pressure is always on us to have a large brood and big families. But our one Mahir is enough. He is now in Ashoka, and he's 18 years old. So I think I wrote on Mother's Day this time on Facebook saying it's the most blessed role for me. There are so many roles we women really have to play on a daily basis, but the most blessed one is being a mother. It teaches you new things every day. And now that my son is leaving teenage, I can see he's again going back to the sweet kid he was, which I seem to have lost these last 6 years. Yes, I thought it's gone, but they kind of circle back to being the way they were. But yeah, the teenage years are always a little bit maybe rough. Now it's the empty nest, so a new phase of life. But every phase I think is lovely in its own way.
So you've shown us the light that we know after teens. We can expect something.
I see a little dim light here.
Okay, alright.
Coming back.
So that's interesting.
Glowing the horizon.
Thank you so much. And now we come to Rashmi, who's written such a brilliant book. So Rashmi, before we come to the inspiration behind your book, would you like to add on to the question asked?
Well, I was always fond of children. I think Aditya, my sister's son, is my first son, and then I have my niece. So when Devish, I always want to be a mother. So when he came, I'm a little man, like paranoid. All I want to do was just look at him, admire him. That's about it. But yeah, I think children get so much joy. Not just Devish and Nandini, but even my neighbor, his two daughters, and my sister-in-law's kid. I will always cherish the moments with them. Like I remember telling Nikhilesh once, I should learn to make paratha. I was like, Rashmi auntie, start with the basics, start with chapati. So there are certain moments, which
I'm kneading the dough.
I just can't get it now. And he's a good cook. So there are certain things which Devashi has told me, Devesh has told me, which I'll never forget, ever. So I think that I can't share everything now. I don't like it. Yeah, but I think the happiest moments of my life has been. Okay, I'll tell you. Like I came home late once, and Devu was so small. And I had gone to Nandini's house, and she was like, Rashmi auntie, why you come so late? Can't you come early from Nandu house? So, and she couldn't even speak properly that time. So, the authority in which kids speak with you, and then you just have to obey. I'm sure they've all forgotten it. But
That's a sweet authority which we always look forward to, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. They just make us do whatever they want, So and we are so happy doing that, of course. And there are certain boundaries which we're going to talk about now. So Rashmi, as I said, such a brilliant book. I finished reading it. Very interesting. Your take on parenting. What inspired you to explore parenting through the eyes of celebrities?
actually, this is a very good question because normally people associate celebrities with glamour and stuff like that. No one has actually explored the fact that they are parents at the end of the day. So one day I was talking to Maria Buriti, and she was like, people just assume that if you are a celebrity, you'll not take care of your kids, and that's terrible. The way she said it, that's terrible. I could feel that, she's not liking it, and it's just not fair. So I said, yes, we should have a book on this, on celebrity parenting, to show the fans, to show the audience that there is so much more to celebrities than glamour and glitz. At the end of the day, they are parents, and their issues are even more, I would say, they strive more to give their children normal, wholesome childhood, and how they deal with the paps, and how they have to teach their children stuff which other parents don't. So it's a tough job on them. So hats off to all of them because they're still doing a great job.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. When we talk about celebrities,
it's not always that both husband and wife would be a celebrity. True. One's a spouse might be a celebrity or may not be a celebrity. And both of them are coming probably from a different background. Upbringing is different. Their childhood experiences are different. Their thinking are different. They're moving around in different circles. So their thought processes are different. So Madhu, I would like to ask you about how would one navigate their way through when if the spouses, husband and wife, they have a very different way of bringing up children. Having said that, of course, we know that parents, they want the best for their children. It's just that the way they want to do it sometimes differ.
Yeah. So the thing is, before you become a parent, what is most important to realize how you grow yourself as a human. So very early, I got lucky that I came across a lovely counselor, and I thought I was joining a parenting class. Being a part of South Bombay, we are always doing workshops and classes, so it was a thing at that time. And I joined one which said parenting. So when I went to parenting, it was called SAP, and that means Self-Awareness Program. So I thought I was enrolling for parenting class, but they called it the SAP. So the explanation is that you are a human first and then a parent. So the more you deal with your own triggers, your own baggage, your own trauma, because before you become a mother or before you behave like a mother, it is who you are. So that's what you're going to teach. And you don't teach your children by talking to them. You teach your children by by the way you live your life. As an example. So if they see you, they watch you, what you talk to them is secondary. What you are, who you are is primary. So a lot of my own issues, which I never realized for the first 30 years of my life, came up. Then I went through my own confusion. I didn't know what to tell my child because I didn't know whether what I'm saying is correct or not. Then you look at your husband, and then you have issues with him. Because you don't know what he's saying is the right thing. So you start fighting with your husband, the battle, the conflict with him starts. That is hot, that is not correct because the child gets more confused. The child, he or she doesn't know what is right because the parents themselves don't know. The more issues you have with your spouse, that much you project. So there are a lot of confusion. I didn't know whether what I was saying or doing is the correct thing or not because I didn't know what my father and my mother did to me was correct or not. I had to first understand so many things which I never gave it a thought. That why am I telling this to my child? Why do I want her? Like I would be like, oh, you can't have your car because I came in a bus. I went by BST bus. Now I'm not giving you a car. So these things we just automatically talk what our parents talk to us. But what our parents talk to us, was it correct? So everything becomes a question. And then everything that your husband says, because he had a different upbringing, completely different person. You are a complete different person. So first you have to come to a point where you and him agree. Even on the points that you and him disagree, also you need to come to a point, okay, when he's talking this, even though I don't agree, I'm going to step back. So as a parent, first it's all about me. It's not about being a parent. So there is no such thing as being a good parent or not a good parent. But there is something called being a good human, and that also not in a moralistic way. I'm talking about a person who understands, thinks about everything, and slowly, and it's a process. At no age, at no point you can say, what I am is perfect. At every event you realize that you can become better as a human being. And at that point, you allow your children to be a human being. They are not your children, they are another human being. And you, just by the virtue of being older than them, by 20 years or 30 years, by having had more experience, you can guide them. But at no point you are correct and they are wrong. That is the first thing I have to learn, that I am not correct because I am a mother. Yes, I am there with you even when you make your mistake, I am there. So these things I am learning for myself. So I am open to listening to my children when they have a counter point of view, because they were not born in the 70s, they were born in 2000. So I cannot raise them the way I was raised. So this understanding and understanding towards my partner, there is one thing that says, in an argument, I am right and the other one is the husband. Yeah? So we have to first come to the understanding, no, we both have a point of view and we have to work through that. So you work through your relationship because that is going to teach your children by watching, and then you understand who you are, where you come from, that automatically they learn. And the only thing that helps is the basic line. There is no stay-home mother is not better than a working mom. Working mom is not better than a stay-home mom. A strict mom is not better than a non-strict mom. Just a loving, lenient mom is not the better mom than the other mom. So there is no such thing as a good mom. The only thing that is good is the love and the need to want to do the best for your child. That's it.
And so well said, so well said. In fact, you just brought up this topic about working mothers. These working mothers often they grapple with guilt. Am I doing enough? Is it whether I will be with my children for every event, for every PTM? I don't want to miss out on anything when the child is not well. But life happens. Sometimes one is there, sometimes one is not. So, Harmovi, I wanted to ask you as a counselor, how can a working woman, a working mother, balance their professional and their personal life without dealing with this guilt?
So firstly, I think guilt comes inbuilt. There's no way we can ask it to sit on the couch while we parent. It's part of who we are. But what I always remember are my own teacher's words. When I became a mother and I wanted to get back to full-time practice, I was very hesitant, and I felt like I would not be able to invest that time with my child. So I remember this conversation I had with one of my own teachers, and she had said that a mother who's there 8 hours a day with the child, 10 hours, 12 hours a day, but she's screaming, shouting, she's harassed, she's stressed. Think of the impact on the child. And then a mother who is working but comes back, spend 2 hours, and she's there for the child in those 2 hours, playing games or with the kid, and they're completely there with one another. Just think what impact will be on what child, what kind of memories will that child have when they grow up. And that, she didn't ask me to choose anything, she just said keep that thought in your mind when you make a choice. And I always remember those words that I think what's very important is the presence and attunement with a kid over the amount of time. We talk about quality versus quantity, but I work a lot in the field of attachment. So I work on what kind of secure attachment can a parent have with their child, and very important. And one of the ways in which we create insecurity in a child is not so much about the amount of time we are giving them, whether it's cooking for them or cleaning for them or all of that, but the fact of attunement. That can the child walk into the room and can we read the body language and figure out without them uttering a word what's happening, like read between the lines. So if that is missing, whether you're working, you're not working, it doesn't matter. So the guilt, I think, comes from a parent, as Madhu said, not knowing enough about themselves and so transferring that on to the child, and then seeing something is going on but not being aware what is happening. So a simple parenting strategy, I would say, is just to you know your child best, and if you know your kid, you can recognize their body language, you can understand them. It takes care of 70-80% of the guilt, because nobody else can read a kid like a parent can because of that biological connection. So guilt is inbuilt. I would say we can't get rid of it at all, and we shouldn't, because guilt as an emotion guides us to make good decisions. Without guilt, I think we would be a complete society in chaos. So all of us as humans need guilt. It's about how much guilt and how do we balance that out with our understanding of our child is very important. That's what I would feel.
I totally agree. Madhu, you want to add something?
Yeah, there is, I wanted to say at that point, like you're there 8 hours with your child and shouting and screaming and irritated, that doesn't do good for your child. And the mother who comes after 8 hours working outside, she doesn't want to spend those 2 hours because she's also tired, and when she's spending that 1 hour, because she's guilty that she's been away and she doesn't want to take time to sleep or rest, but she has to spend because she's been away, even she will be not giving the right emotion. So the point, that's where I was coming to, each one of us have the trigger point. So there is no stay-home mother which is great and there's no working mother which is great. The good mother comes when you deal with that you're not triggered. Whether you're a stay-home or a busy mom, you know how to handle your emotions and you're coming from the right place. Because both those situations can be bad. A stay-home mother can be frustrated and a working mother can be tired. And they both can react badly with their child. So yeah, that's what I
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said and very fine point. So in fact, as you were mentioning that we need to be for the children. Time doesn't really matter. We need to be there for the children. But sometimes what happens in today's age, some of us, we have become a little more overprotective. Yeah, we are trying to micromanage things. We want to be everywhere when our child is. It's in our language. It's called helicoptering. So, Yukta, would you like to how is it? How can we stay away from being a helicopter parent, or is it okay to be a helicopter parent?
So I'd like to begin with two aspects to it, the way I like to look at it. Primarily from my own journeys, when I was told you're being too protective, and I said, but who defines how much is protective? Right? So even when we look into the animal kingdom, we see that a lioness will protect her cubs when she feels they're in danger. And that sixth sense or that intuition or that gut feeling comes to a mother, but no one else. What is also interesting is that, they've recently now discovered, which of course in our ancient scriptures they would have known, that when we're carrying a baby in our womb, a lot of the baby's blood and cells also go into the mother's brain. So it's not just that the mother is protecting the child is also knows when my mother is going through a certain emotion. We may not need to say we're feeling guilty or sorry. The child is sensing that. They've imprinted on their subconscious and their, into their memory, everything that we've experienced in those 9 months and so on when we're, feeding them, breast milk chal raha hai, uske baad bhi mother kaise khila rahi, has ke khila rahi. How she's talking, because the child has seen the mother's face at 6 inches first when they're born. So every small movement of your face or your tone or your voice or your feeling is totally known to the child. I mean, I think it's the most intimate and the most sacred expression of love that they both really understand each other without having to say it. So I personally have never agreed with the fact that there is something called helicopter parenting. I feel that we can't protect our child enough in today's age. We're not talking about 100 to 300 years ago. I mean, even then it must have been their way of protecting from invaders or from whatever, from wild animals. But today I feel it's much more important to know what influences are coming forward to our children, especially with social media, especially with a lot of exposure to children who are watching so many things and their parents are not helping them process it. So I am very careful about what language is coming forward, what subjects are being discussed. I'd rather have a child who's a little more happier and discriminates and says, I would rather read my books and I would rather do something on my own than to be with this kid who's being aggressive. I mean, initially I found my son was very sensitive when he was small. So he wasn't able to defend himself against other kids who are being a little aggressive in play. कोई कुछ मार रहा है, कोई खिलौना खींच रहा है, अब वो नहीं बोल पा रहा है, तो वो उसकी पर्सनालिटी है ना. I don't have to tell him you also fight back and you also be now pushy. It's okay. He has to evolve at his own pace. He loves animals. He's gentler towards other creatures. So that's his personality. I have to honor that also. And in that process, I don't want to put him in a position where you say, अच्छा उसको आग की तरफ जाने दो, हाथ लगाएगा, then he'll know कि ये कितना गर्म है. I don't have to throw my child to the wolves. I have to know कि कितना breathing space उसको चाहिए, and where I can say, okay, now you can initiate this conversation. So you can go and say hello to that boy. Those kind of things. So I feel it's very important, that discriminating factor, because even when we come from the scientific perspective, the prefrontal cortex, which is the thinking capacity of a human being, only comes into development for young boys, especially only after 21. So if I'm asking a 12-year-old to decide and choose, I'm really asking them something which they don't even have the capacity for that yet. So it's very important to be the parent and say, so far I am the adult. When you are an adult and I can trust that you have understanding of what my action is and what that consequence is going to be, I'm too happy for you those kind of decisions. But तब तक मैं हूँ decide करने के लिए. And sometimes they do need an authority to tell them. Sometimes they are confused. अब वो बच्चा ऐसा कर रहा है या वो फ्रेंड्स ऐसा कर रहे हैं, उसको पता ही नहीं है कि मेरा चॉइस का बैरोमीटर क्या है, व्हाट्स माय यार्डस्टिक. So I think for me it's always been about, I'm here to take the decision, and when I feel that I can sense that you want to take that lead forward, I'll be more than happy to. So I feel it's important to know when to let them fly. When they're ready, their wings will soar, and that confidence comes from that secure attachment which we were talking about. The more the child is bonded to the mother, the more confident they are to go out into the world and say, I know I have my loving, supporting rock behind me, and I can fall back on that. गलती हुआ तो भी ठीक है. But to always let them be at this teenage, when a lot of people feel वो they'll rebel, or their feelings might be suppressed, or they'll go out and talk to somebody else. I don't hold those insecurities. I feel I've been so devoted as a mother that I know he will come to me when he needs it, and there are times when I prod him as well. So in my journey I felt that I'd rather have a more silent time where he can develop his own spiritual abilities with meditation and contemplation, and understand who he is also. I'd rather tell him, come, let's express your emotions. If you're feeling anger, आप उसको भी express करो, rather than telling him कि no, why are you feeling angry? So I'm not going to get intellectual at that time. It's very important for them to have those tools and be prepared to then go into the battlefield. So when you're an adult, they say, okay, I have my tools ready. I know कि ये situation मुझे कैसे deal करना है. We may not have, some people say, but they won't get exposed to life situations. How will they toughen up? They'll toughen up. We all toughen up. They know how to use iPads. They're very smart. We all figure out that language. It's not so difficult. And when it comes to taking that jump or diving into that difficult situation, they learn how to swim. But जल्दी डाल के भी उसको फिर वो backfire हो जाए. That's my personal take on it. That no amount of protection is too much. It's enough. We know it when it's enough, and we know when to let them go.
In fact, while you were talking about this, your response is coming from a point of view of a balanced mother. So when, sometimes what happens, and it's absolutely, I think most of us agree with this, what you spoke about. So when, sometimes what happens, mothers, they get very anxious. So that's where, that when you're talking about protecting a child, and then we cross the line. And we may not give the space to the child to grow, which you rightly spoke about right now. You spoke about being mindful. As mother spoke about being self-aware. Like as a parent, you're being self-aware, you're teaching the children to be self-aware. As a mother, we need self-compassion, we are teaching children to be kind. So I guess this whole perspective of being balanced is something. What do you think, Rashmi?
The last question on earth, you should ask the question of helicoptering because I've been a very paranoid parent. So guilty as charged. I am deflected to Hawaii, and my son is there, my family is here, so I can't.
She'll be very diplomatic.
May I add something? Because when we heard Yukta speak, it comes from a mother who's doing a lot of work on herself.
Absolutely.
So what she talked about being protective comes from her work on herself and her understanding of herself, and therefore having that spiritual space, if I might add, or the mental space to understand another child, another human being, and see if he needs her to be protective or not. But there's another aspect because I've seen as a parent around me as well. The meaning of helicopter in that sense is very different. It comes from a space of fear, lot of fear, and that fear is unresolved within yourself. So you are teaching your child in the name of being careful that a level of mistrust and distrust in universe. Don't go there. Don't cross the road. Don't go in the lift alone. There is an element of safety that don't do these things. You're not ready to cross the road alone. But unless you allow the child to move at the right age, which if you're spiritually aware and you know your child's capabilities, you take that call. Otherwise, you do project a lot of fear on the child, and the child grows up with that mother's fear which is unresolved. The parent's fear unresolved, the child carries. I've had that situation. I still could not understand that why my mother had a paranoia about men help around me. Okay? So, me being a girl, my mother had that extreme, and I, in public, in cinema halls or in bus stops, I literally am looking around that who's going to misbehave with me. I may have had a personal bad experience, my mother may have had. There is a fear in my thing. As a result, being a mother of 2 daughters, I never allowed them to do anything. For the longest time, I had help going in the car. They are 17, 18. I've got people, and the other mothers around me used to laugh at me. Where are your babies? They make fun of me. And I realized that's my unresolved fear on my child. So that's one which is not correct. It's helicoptering. Another helicoptering, what we do on our child, is our unfulfilled ambition, which we want our children to fulfill for us. So when you see, you want your child to come in the 90s, you want your child to come in your 100s, you want your child to practice in the nets for hours to play that cricket or the piano lesson, you have to see whether your child is musically inclined, and then you're guiding through, because your child does need discipline and rule. If you don't have the rule, she will not sit on the piano and practice. So you need that authority and the rule. That is right when she said. But it was also very important to know, to see if your child is inclined musically. Is your child inclined in the sports arena? Is your child mathematically inclined? Before you push. So when you're pushing your child, there is a fine line of discipline and rule, and there is a fine line when you say that I want you to be the best so I can be, I'm a great mother. So, when you go to a school, your child has come first in sports or in thing, and you go on that PTA or the parents meet, and everybody says, oh, you're the mother of that first. Is it you who is needing that through your children? And is that why you're after your child? So there are many things you have to understand. So importance is discipline, rule, pushing your child, because like she said, they don't have that. But most important is your self-awareness to know that other human being, where he needs discipline and where he needs to be pushed, is what I've learned. Sorry, Dr. Havobi, you should
not at all. I also wanted to add that, we like building communication. When you spoke about mistrust, so asking him or asking your child to do those things and say, "Beta, pahunch jao, so just drop me a message so that I know that I don't have to call you and disturb you while you're in your class or make you feel worried that my mom is now worrying." And so just drop me a message. You've reached, and that builds trust and open communication. So he also has to know that my mother has to not sit and feel anxious because I've taken an auto rickshaw or whatever public transport and I've gone for a class. It's a two-way street. So one of those things has to, that's them building their skills, soft skills as well, and growing into adults who say, okay, I have done this. So taking their initiative and say, Mama, it's done, it's handled. So then okay, he's going to go and he's going to share this with me. If there's something that's happened, he'll come back and he'll tell me. So वो भी एक बहुत important part, instead of just you being the person and saying ऐसा करना वैसा करना and giving them step by step, say okay, you do how you feel like it, but I just need to know you've reached safely. That's very important. I used to do that for my mom. I remember when I used to travel on the railway trains, locals may, I had to get off at the station, go to the PCO, put that coin into them, say I have reached here and I am taking the taxi. Next station I'll reach. If I find them, I'll call you. And so that builds trust. The mother also knows. Very important part of no mobiles. No mobiles. Had to find the PCO, had to drop the coin and get
Our
to the
generation is the best. We didn't have mobiles, so we did all the fun. Our parents never knew. And now our kids, you want to know every minute what they are doing.
Yeah, and they can have that tracker
tracker wo zyada ho gaya, but
and lack of trust. That's a subtle message.
subtle message. But there are parents who also have not given phones in their children's hands, and that's like really building that level of intuition, that wavelength, saying I can sense it. You can sense that something is okay with the child and he's fine. And नहीं mobile भी ना लगे तो क्या करोगे without signal? If it's raining or if the battery goes, then you have to kind of know, okay, they've managed it. Or
We
So, yeah,
have
just-
amazing self-aware mothers here. So we're having a great conversation. Thank you for your inputs. In fact, you rightly said. So helicopter parenting stems from fear, stems from your own insecurities, which we handed over to our children. And because of these insecurities and fear or complexes, children often resort to bullying. So, which is something so eminent here now, and where parents, they feel so helpless when they see their children being bullied. Sometimes parents don't even come to know that the child is being bullied. So, Dr. Hawovi, would you like to address this issue?
It's a big issue, there's no doubt about it. And it doesn't have to happen in a very obvious, overt way where the teacher figures out, oh, this is the class bully. It can be very subtle. The sweetest kid in the class is very obedient in front of the teacher, maybe the worst behind their back, when the kids are playing and things like that. So it is very subtle. And a lot of children keep silent about the bullying. They don't want to talk about it because there's a social narrative that goes around. You have to be strong, you have to be rough and tough, you have to give it back, and you see, a lot of the Instagram reels also in a very subtle way are promoting that, so and we live in a very patriarchal society, so there is males who are bullied in school are the last to come and tell their parents at home that something like that is going on. Girls may even do it. Not that there's a differentiation in gender. Now, how do you handle something like this? It's such a nuanced approach. But I'm speaking from my experiences of, since I work as a trauma therapist, right? So some of the memories that I work with of my adult clients often will go back to school bullying. Many, many times. And, it's not really the incident of bullying that they remember, as much as the fact that a parent either didn't stand up for them, or a parent was not available for them, or a parent had their own fears, or a parent didn't even pay attention when they didn't come and when they came and gave a hint. The parent didn't even take that hint that something is happening in the school. That is more painful for the adult when they think back at their childhood, and probably much more painful for the kid when they're going through it at that point of time, that there's an unavailability of a safe figure that we can go back to. So, and I have spoken about this on so many forums, that if your kid comes and gives you an indication that there is bullying going on of any form, don't dismiss it. That's the first thing we say कि हाँ ठीक है सब schools में होता है. उसको try and open it up a little more, open that conversation up a little more. A parent, I borrow from what Madhu has said, a lot of parents will avoid this discussion because it brings up something in them, and they say कि that's not a territory we know how to handle, so we don't want to go there only. But if you don't open it up, you never know the severity, and the severity can range from as simple as making fun of appearance and all of that. If the severity is at that level, you can teach a child how to be able to handle that at that stage. It may be much more severe, and there are some shocking incidents of ragging and bullying that we come across, which can even border on sexual assault. And if you're not opening up that conversation with your child, then the child is sitting 20 years later in the therapist's office sobbing away because they are unable to trust people in the world. So any hint that a child drops must be taken seriously. and must be looked into and talked about. And if there's a continuum of bullying, right? So if the bullying is something which is at the lower end of the continuum, the parent and child can sit together and discuss how to be able to manage that. Again, reading between the lines, seeing the child's expressions, understanding more about the bully is important. Then, if it's at the far end of the continuum, stronger action is needed. The parent needs to have the courage to go up, speak to the school authorities, bring it to the notice of the class. Very often, I've had parents come in after a really horrible incident has happened in school and the child is disturbed, and then it reaches a point where the child doesn't want to go to school at all. There is school avoidance. And then the parent realizes, oh my god, this is a big issue, and we need to now go to the extent of changing the school or changing the classroom, and it shouldn't reach that level where the child's whole academic year is disrupted. So I think picking up those small hints, reading between the lines, understanding what the child is trying to say and not dismissing anything they're saying is very important. I remember that I was bullied in my own home because my sister was quite a bully, and I was the lowest in the food chain, right? The youngest in the family. So bullying to automatically hota hai. So I was a right target for bullies in my classroom. And when my son was once bullied in school, I remember an inner voice kind of coming out and telling me, you have to support him now. You have to speak up for him now. So I made sure he had a fracture in his hand, a sprain in his hand, and there was a kid in the class who pulled his hand while the sprain was on, and it turned into a fracture. From a sprain, it became a fracture. And I remember that I was a person who would be non-confrontational as much as I can be. जितना confrontation को avoid करो उतना avoid करो. But I made sure that I spoke to the parent in front of my child so he gets immediate feedback that there is somebody standing up for me. And then he will stand up for himself. So when he went to school the next day, this mild timid kid coming from a mild timid mother went and when the teacher asked him how he got the fracture, because till then this child didn't tell anyone except me that this was the kid who had caused the problem in school. He bravely went up to the teacher and said the fracture is not an organic fracture, it happened because of something that happened in the classroom. And then it reached, of course, a higher stage where it should have reached, where the child was pulled up and the parents were called. These are actions that need to be taken. Because often if the school also is not going into the intricacies of the bully's family background, the bully is not getting the help. And I'm saying bully in a very, I would say, stigmatizing manner, but the fact is that a bullied child, a bully in the school will be a child with a lot of complexities in the home environment. So it's a school's job also to figure that out, find some intervention, find something that can be done. Silence is never the option. Never say it will pass over, it will blow over, सब बच्चों के साथ होता है. This is a normal part of growing up. Oh no, it's not. There is a continuum, and I am witness to how many stories of adult trauma that come into my clinic because of bullying incidents that have remained hidden from adult eyes without adult intervention. See, the impacts in adulthood are so much difficult to reverse. They are much easier to reverse when you're a child. So I would say we shouldn't take this as something lightly. We should pay attention to it and take it more seriously. That would be my take. Exactly. Then you're pushing your kid into exactly. These are the kids who grow up and then they think domestic violence is fine. They think their boss sexually harassing them.
Our culture is also such. Especially Indian culture is supposed to be submissive. You can't talk back to elders. There's power distance. So in a culture like ours, we need to take a little more effort to make sure that our kids are assertive, not aggressive, not submissive, but assertive.
I think this assertive communication should be taught from school.
But it's also by examples. Like
Absolutely, by example at
It's
home.
easy to say stand up, be assertive. It's different to do it and show a kid.
Yes, absolutely.
You have to be able to have a child, look the child in the eyes and say that I can stand up for you and you are the most important for me, above and beyond anybody else. I think the kid needs to know that, the child needs to know that.
So again, we come back to introspection. So everything is about introspection, being self-aware. That's what is going to make us a good parent in the true sense. So, Rashmi, I wanted to ask you about there's the landscape of parenting is evolving, and lots have changed over the years. When we were younger, probably when we were not even born, what do you think has the role of a father evolved, changed? Uh, your thoughts on it?
Brilliant question. Actually, the best thing is nowadays fathers are so much more hands-on. Like my husband is 10 times more nurturing than I am, 10 times more gentle, and it's a myth, you know. Earlier on, parents were, especially father, since we are in a patriarchal system and we are deeply patriarchal, father was always head of the family. Father was always someone who made decisions. Father was always someone who earned the money. And in some households, it's still like this. He's earning the money, so he'll make the decisions. And society is always in a flux. So, now women will not tolerate this nonsense that he's earning the money, so he'll make the decisions. Because women are doing so much more. We're keeping you in the womb. We are teaching you right from how to eat to bathing you. We're doing so much. So that generation, the way they thought, that will no longer work. So the best part about this generation and the men in this generation is they're very hands-on. They share the load, and that's the way it should be. And one more point, I truly believe if you have a son, then it's very important that you be a working mother. A son has to see his mother having dreams, having aspirations, working towards it. And by default, he'll be a very supportive husband. So I have a good example in my husband. So, I don't know, he hates to hear that. Because my mother-in-law was always a working mother. And since she's always been a working mother, I think children who have been raised by working mothers, they are different. Because respect for working women is ingrained in them. Like, I'll just give you a small example. I want to take tuitions. Building kids come home to take, I want to teach English. I've done MA in English literature. I was like, I'll teach them. So my son was like, he was cribbing to his father, like, so many kids at home, they'll make a noise, So he was not, because little kids do make noise, like, especially third, fourth standard. But my husband very nicely told him, look, it keeps mom constructively occupied. Mom wants to do it, let her do it. Like, you stay in your room for that 1 hour or 2 hours. These are baby steps, but it will go a long way. His wife is a happy girl, I feel. It goes this way. Would you like to add something?
Yeah, I think in patriarchy, I think men are victims as well.
I
Because
agree.
patriarchy it's a culture, it's a social conditioning. So we always blame the guys for being patriarchal, but they are actually victims. I actually did a TV show recently, which is streaming on Amazon. Yeah, it's called Sweet Calm Coffee, and I'm the wife. And the wife has to wake up and cook for the husband, cook for the children, and all that. And when the son comes back from a trip, she wants to know how was the trip, and he says, "Mama, you won't understand anything." And then when the daughter comes back and the mother wants to ask something, she says, "Mom, you won't get anything." Because everybody thinks that the mother's job is in the kitchen, cooking and making her sleep. That's the show. And the husband also, he appreciates other women on Facebook who are, traveling and doing stuff. Whatever, like, oh, she's the CEO of that company. Look at her, oh my God, she's going on a trekking. And the wife who was holding his home earns no respect in the eyes of, because that's a job that you have to cook now. You have to look after my mother. You have to look after the babies. You have to look after me. That was a show. So this wife gets totally frustrated in the show and goes on a road trip and with the daughter, and the daughter sees the mother singing. So she says, "Mom, you're a singer?" She says, "Yeah, before I had you or I got married, I was also a young person like you, who was a brilliant student, brilliant singer. Then how did you get married?" She says, "Yeah, my father got me married and then you all came along, I had to give up that." So then she supports. Then because she's on a road trip, the husband and the son had to cook for themselves. That's when they realize, oh my God, my wife does all this and never, So it was like he was not a bad guy. He was not an abusing guy. He was just a normal man of the society. So that transformation was there, and that's what is happening today in our. That's a TV show, but that's exactly what's happening in our lives as well. Like husbands are talking to the children. In our times, we never spoke to our father. We were scared of our father. Today, my daughters talk to their father more than they talk to me, because me, who is a hormonal victim and frustrated, is more reactive, but the father is more kind and gentle, patient with the daughters. So I find, acha, you talk, Mama, I don't want to talk. So the roles are changing, the lines are getting a bit more, yeah. And the and like I always say in feminism, women don't have to be the flag bearers, it's the men who have to be a greater feminist. They have to support their wives and the sisters and the daughters.
I want to add from my experience and my journey as well. For me, the choice was very different. And I said, I just want my child to know me as mama. I don't want him to be exposed to media or ये celebrity क्या होता है. बच्चे की घर में तो नहीं कोई concept ही नहीं है ना celebrity. She's my mother. She's taking care of me. She's my go-to for love, care, even to discipline, to tell me what's right, what's wrong. So for me, that was very, very clear that I don't want him to be in front of, photographers and being clicked or being asked. And for the longest time, he didn't know who his mama is. So for the longest time, he would wonder why children in his school are asking, your mama is Miss World, and he would say, but wo hota kya hai? He literally would come and say, but why is that parent asking for your autograph? Kya hota hai? And but why are they wanting your photographs? So I said, no, bas aise hi. So for the longest time, I made a, covered it up also कि उसको conscious नहीं हो, realization नहीं हो, and he really was a little confused कि हो क्या रहा है, सब लोग मेरी मम्मा के बारे में ऐसे पूछ रहे होते हैं. She answers very casually, if somebody asks her, you're Yukta Mukhi, and she'll say, yeah, I'm just Krishna's mama, she would just say those things. So उसको नहीं समझ में आता था till we hit the lockdown. And then he grew to an age where slowly I started telling him a little of those things. And so for almost 10-12 years, I didn't wear makeup because I said I just don't want to do anything which is not fitting in my definition of what the child's world is. Let it be natural. Let me be a part of his world. Let me indulge in all those things that he likes doing. And so it's become the other way around. Now I use that time to learn things and unlearn things and question myself and be on my journey. And now that he's become a teen and he says, Mama, why don't you do this and why? So he was not told I'm doing all this, but उसको धीरे-धीरे अब realization हो गया कि my mama would be good at doing this. And so whenever the last couple of interviews I've had, he said, you speak so well. And I said, yeah, thanks for the compliment. So it's very different. But my target as where we are going to with this discussion, patriarchy का है कि मैं उसको बार-बार बोलती हूँ, देखो आप जब अपना संसार बसाओगे, तो the question will be asked कि माँ ने क्या सिखाया है. So being a single mother, I have to play double the role. Now I have to not make him, become very soft with his manners or let his aggression when it has to come out. And I said, it's okay, you're a man. If you want to do this, you're welcome to do it. And I said, okay, I'll also come and learn martial arts with you, and I'll also do this. And तो उसमें उसको क्या realization हुआ है because of being a single mom, because of also the very conscious decision that we chose to do homeschooling after the lockdown. He's been at home and we've become bonded on a much more deeper level. अब उसको ये भी realize हो रहा है कि मम्मा का जब menstrual cycle आता है तो how she is emotionally and I need to be there for her in this way. So he's much more sensitized to those things. I hope so, but he has still one more category for me to check the list is that मैं क्यों menu decide करूँ आज क्या बनने वाला है? You go and Google it, you take out from YouTube and we'll do it. So he's a little lazy on that. I said, see, that's the only compliment I want from your wife is that he's a good cook. So I said, don't be a good cook, but just find a good recipe. Just find उतना निकाल लो कि कितनी चीज में क्या क्या जा रहा है. So that nobody has to eat jala. I said, Monday you'll feed your kids, or Monday you'll tell people what is good to eat, what is healthy. So that is also equally important. That the realization comes from within them, not that I need to tell you, मुझे बाहर जाना है, and I sacrificed, and now I want to go out, and now you're grown up, now you don't need me. No, you need me, I am there. That's the first choice. When you feel, Mama, this is the time, and like even last night for the movie premiere, I said, is it okay if I go? Will you go to sleep? He said, of course I'll go to sleep. I said, don't say I'm going to go to sleep and then, still feel anxious कि mama घर नहीं आई है. He was a little in bed in the morning. Yeah. So what time did you come back? He said, midnight हो गया था. How was the movie? I said, it was very nice. I'll tell you all about the story. So it's evolving to where I'm seeing his maturity as a man, which will reflect at some point, not just with his wife, but other women as well. So important that when he stands amongst men friends to share, this is how they go through. Now I've told him I'm getting into perimenopause. What is perimenopause? तो वो भी important है 14-year-old के लिए. He doesn't need to know about, like I've still not had the conversation. A lot of parents say, have you had that sex education or conversation? I said no, because he has grown up listening and admiring the stories of Shiva and Parvati. So let that also come to know beautifully. It's not a scientific discussion for me in my house. How babies born, how men and women come together. It's natural. समझेगा उसको अपने आप से. Let it come to a place where he's able to digest that concept with its sacredness. It's not because I need to tell him and he has to be careful. He'll get it. I've seen he plays with a 2-year-old also with love and he plays with a 10-year-old also with that level. So he knows कि अगर baby को handle करना है तो वो कैसे करेगा. I have more confidence in him. So I think those are also very important skills. Not just a woman has to work, but you do the grinding. You wash clothes. You do those things in the morning. Get up in the morning at 6 in the morning and you be in the kitchen. You do that. That's equally important. सिर्फ ये नहीं है कि हाँ mama has to work और working women है और वही that's like the thumbs up. आप घर कितना अच्छे से संभाल पाओगे ये भी equally important है. So that later on you're not hit with, oh I don't know how to take care of a baby. मेरे को रात को जगने को नहीं होएगा. My wife has to do it. क्यों भाई? पैदा दोनों ने किया है. Responsibility लो, उसका पूरा ownership लो, and be the nurturing, caring father who knows how to express his emotions, talk to the child, understand what education is.
I think most Indian men can't express. I think it's all body development.
What they know about hormones is like when you're telling them that you're angry about something, they say, oh, she's PMSing. That's totally dismissing.
And it's judgmental.
Judgmental and what they've seen and heard in the family. It's primarily that, and of course, when I heard you speaking right now, it's actually you being very true to what you initially said in the conversation, that it's all about being human. So it's not about gender roles, and they are blurring, and men and women, they are taking up roles which are important for their too.
Their own balance, their inner balance.
And for the children who they are responsible, they have taken the responsibility to bring them as good human beings. As we say that we don't own the children. They are there, we are grateful that we are their parents. They chose us. The children choose us before coming. So it has been a great discussion. There was one more question, but I'm going to let it go. Yeah, so maybe, so I would like to open the floor to the audience. Would you like to ask a few questions, anything, to our esteemed panelists? Yeah, of course, or share something. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is there something you feel, oh my god, what preachy stuff was it? Or something, any experience which you can relate with, or anything which you feel that no, hey.
Yeah, I really like to. When did you come? When did she come?
She always has things to say.
Say something. I'd love to hear from our brothers as well in the audience. And there's a grandmother who's sitting here. I'm watching. आपके generation से बहुत अलग होगा, है ना?
Yeah.
Do we know who's with whom she's?
So we'll just give you a mic.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from her because their generation saw a whole different way of bringing up children and grandchildren living in the same
also
home.
has been witness to many children.
Yes.
So she's their teachers.
That's Mrs. Dr. Indu Kulkarni, HOD
Indu
English
Kulkarni.
Literature.
I'm a black teacher and principal of Bhavans College. And I retired. It was very nice of her to call me. And I'm still in touch with children, and your children are not your children. That point, they are lives longing to be born, and they live in a world of their own. And what you do by chance is to be there and to guide them and to encourage them and to help them. With my children and my grandsons, I have gone through all this experience, and I have guided all other women also similarly. And it is fascinating that I am listening to all of you. And the times are changing. When the times are changing, we have to respect the changing times and fall in line. We have to fall in line with whatever the times are. And we have to think at their level and at the future level of what their options are and what their opportunities are and what their ambitions are, and maybe support them and give them more encouragement. And I only say that children should follow their passion. I only tell the children that if you have a passion, music or art or medicine or some computers, now it's all computers, you follow that and chase it up and see what you can do with your life in that field. And you can't dictate to your children ever, because that is not fair. And my parents didn't do it with us, because I got Hindustan Liver in Bombay at 1,200 as starting point. And I told my uncle, I'm sorry, I like to teach. And I used to teach little children and play and be with them. And I went on to get 200 rupees as salary. And I was happy. And I'm still happy because I get a pension. I am totally happy. So if children ask, what would you like to do? You should follow your star. And we should encourage them. That's all that we can do. And I think all the children, all your Jackie Shroff, his son, and ads and music and whatever passion, I think they're all doing very well. Alia Bhatt is doing well. All of them are doing what they want. And they are happy. What we can see is that they are happy. Are they happy?
Happy children.
That is important. If they are happy and they are well adjusted in life, that is, I think, very important. Not the money or the power. Two things are not important.
They're not interlinked.
Yeah.
Happiness is not dependent
Yeah.
on money or achievements.
No.
That is
You have
very
to tell
important.
them you have to survive. If you're going to do that, then you survive. That is what you want to do. When you
I think when we come to not only just happiness, but when we're talking about success or satisfaction in life, again when we look at our parents, what was their version of happiness?
level.
What made them happy? So children, again, as Madhuji said in the beginning, it's not what I'm telling them, but how I'm being and what I'm showing them. If I'm showing that, or I'm genuinely happy with the way I've made choices in life,
Yeah.
is the way that they'll say happiness is not dependent on how somebody is behaving towards me, how big a house I have, what money I'm earning. Happiness is my choice.
Yeah.
it's my internal barometer of how I want to be.
Yeah.
Anybody else would like to ask, share? This is one thing which we haven't covered, which is social media.
Hi, good evening. I'm Shobha from the Times of India. I just happened to be this side and I knew Madhu and Yukta is here. So I just couldn't go back home. I said I'm coming here to meet them. So that's where I landed. And I'm so happy to be here for the launch of Raising Stars. And I'm 100% confident that this is going to be a rocking book and this is going to go places. So I'm yet to buy the book and read, but at least by the gist of what I've gone through or what I've heard, I really feel this is a need of the hour. Yeah, and to me, this is all about a balancing act, you know. So there has to be a proper balancing act at home for children because we are working and we are managing home. So once we do that and the children are seeing that, the parents are taking care of their work, which brings in money, plus they are giving us time at home for whatever we want. So they get to see this combination. I don't think there is anything much more for us to do. I'm a parent of 2 sons. One is 22, turned 23 now, and the other one is 20. So many times I've asked my children, because I have a hectic schedule at office, you know, because being in media, I don't think I've ever come back before 11. So whenever I come back late or next day morning when I get to talk to them, I do ask them, do you think I should quit because I'm coming every day late and I've got hectic schedule at work and I'm always on the phone. The only thing they tell me is, Mama, you are never going to quit your job. Why? Because it's such a respectful job and everybody's proud that my mom works at Times of India, my dad works with Times of India. So that gives them a great pride. It's not because of TOI per se, but my mom and dad are both working in a respectable company and they behave also like this at home. So I'm so proud to say, after so many years of marriage, I don't think we both have even said shut up to each other. It's not very difficult. Even if we say that it doesn't happen or whatever, it's the respect what we maintain at home. The kids learn from us. So that's all what I have to say. Charity begins at home, and it's all about balancing act. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, thank you so much. You rightly said, charity does begin at home.
Thank you.
You would like to add something?
Today the conversation is always around AI, right? But the AI that I wouldn't worry so much is artificial intelligence, but the AI that concerns me is the artificial intimacy, which social media kind of, makes you feel you have like thousands of people, but how many are there really with you? So that artificial intimacy, one must safeguard yourself and your children, yourself first, and then your children. That's the AI I would be more concerned about.
So that comes from this comes when we create this artificial intimacy, brilliant term. It comes from the neediness which we have. We want to be loved. We want to be seen as somebody who is lovable. So when we are secure in ourselves, like when this discussion evolved, that when we secure, when we know who we are, and this is who I am. I don't need to prove anything to anyone. So we teach those to children, and of course they emulate us. They see, they behave, they believe what they see, what they watch. We can work on it to a certain extent. Yes, absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. I think that when we're talking about parenting and we're saying that today the evils of today which our parents are having to combat, which probably the previous generations didn't have those worries or concerns with social media and with artificial intelligence, with so many other things, with even the conversations or the subjects that are being spoken about. I mean, there's a whole different level of it. At our time, we used to be worried about drugs and chota mota aisa kuch. Abhi to it's gone to some other level. So how are we, when we talk about protecting our children and how are we role modeling for them? I think the key where in my contemplation and reflections, and I'm sure a lot of other parents who are senior citizens would agree, is that how well is your child prepared is based on what their level of self-acceptance, self-love, self-esteem, self-worth is, which is not going to come from social media, which is not going to come from their social interaction. It's just truly coming how they see the parent, how the interaction is with the parent, and how the interaction is between both the parents.
Absolutely.
So that is where they're taking home the lessons of, and that is when their self-esteem is strong, then those external influences of artificial intelligence and social media, whatever is coming to them, will not let them make those wrong decisions or wrong choices. And that's building true confidence. Then I know that the child is really up, you can open your wings and soar high.
Yeah, true.
Hi, I just wanted to add a guy's point of view because it's just a handful of men, and I'm Rashmi's classmate from school. I just wanted to, in this whole patriarchy thing, I think it's important to assess everyone's situation at every point of time in marriage. We started off, this is my wife, she was a working air hostess. When we got married, she was earning much more than me. She had a lot more savings. I was struggling, and then we had kids, and then she said, "I need to stay home. Do you think I can quit my job?" And I was happy because by then I had stabled in my career, and I think it's been about 14 or 15. 10 years since she quit.
No, not marriage.
Not married.
I remember that.
70. But but I don't think ever since. I mean, I automatically became the earner of the family, but I don't think it ever our understanding between each other ever our equation changed because I realized that what she got to the kids by being at home, by being with them. I mean, from the outside, one would say, oh, it's a typically, the husband works and the wife stays at home. But it's worked perfectly for us, and I think it has got much more to the family than if maybe, but it was her decision, it was not, never my decision. So I think that is something that
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much. In fact, now we have fathers, stay-at-home fathers.
Hi, I'm Dr. Aruna. Actually, I did my PhD in positive parenting in India. I was the first one in India to do in 2013. So just simply, I just want, wherever I do parenting session, I say 2 to 3 sentences. No parenting style is good or bad. All the parenting style is
Discussion. Thank you so much, Yukta, Madhu,
Thank you
for being here. So I'll hand over the stage.
Finally, the book is going to be launched, and I'm very, very happy. Mrs. Gupta, my Hindi teacher from school, and my English teacher from school, and Dr. Srikarni, my professor from college. This book is all because of you. What are we without our teachers? Please do come. Come on stage, my literary agent. This book is as much hers as mine. I've been waiting for this moment for many, many years. I'm just so happy to finally now. Vote of thanks, Devashri and Janvi, I need your help. A small token of appreciation for Madhu. She's come all the way from Taos. That's so kind of you. Seriously, so kind of you. And she
So
was
nice to know that we are such sensitive mothers. I like that part a lot, you know. Most of us are so sensitive.
so. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting me, for being here. It means the world to me.
Yes, please exercise your voting rights and so that we can partake in political conversations and express our opinions and desires. But first we must step out and do what we must do as a citizen of our country. We have a voice and we must use that.